Alright, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. A clothing company, yeah, and we will have good clothing available. Made out of 100% natural materials, staying centered, fitting correct, and that's how we allow the human body to work, which is our key word, is allowing. But that's what we do, is address the human body's natural function. We come at it through the skeletal system. The only thing that doesn't change, the fat content changes and the muscle mass does as well, but on an earth with gravity, we have to stay centered. There's the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and the jaw, which stabilizes the entire body naturally. It has to stay centered. Feet opposing that center on either side, gripping arches inward, and the body only ever working as a whole. So we talk about clothing because it's the only thing placed onto our bodies, and they would just work unless otherwise restricted or altered in any way. So we keep clothing centered and show how to do it here under In the Image Clothing Company. There's 4 sides to us. I'll talk about them really quick and where clothing has to sit on every human being to ever live. And then we'll get into this discussion about the right crest of the pelvis and how that's getting so bound up. We'll get into it. So this is the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, where we do what I discussed. We have another 4th, which is In the Image Clothing Company podcast with discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. Today's actually the 20th of April 2025. It's Easter Day. It really is. It's awesome. We have another 4th of us, which is In the Image Clothing Company music, and I address sizings and setups of guitars, so there's no alteration to the hands. The hands are essentially the shoulders, as the feet are essentially the hips, and we can't be altering the body while we try to play music. We have another 4th of us, which is In the Image Clothing Company dogs, our newest 4th as of today's date, and we let dogs stay natural. There's dehydrated foods, unnatural materials, and all that comes with a dog, accessory-wise, if you will, and collars, leashes that need to stay balanced because dogs are natural and they can't be altered. Otherwise, there's just a lot of stuff that happens like within human beings, chronic patterning, scar tissue, and damage that can stay with them for life. So, clothing for everybody. If you're a human being, you're a human being. A man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, or any time period to ever be, it has to be in the same location to allow the body's only neutrals to be there, because there is a neutral within every joint of the body. Pants need to be entirely above the hips, so there's no restriction to the pelvis. Slightly higher in the front than the rear for the waistband angle to keep these core muscles contracted as they always would naturally be. The seams on top of our shoulders need to be evenly behind the bones on the peak of our shoulders, which are the other end of our collarbones. Our shoulders will only ever work behind our head. The edge seams of our shoulders, of our tops, should be right at the very edges. This shirt's slightly larger than it could be for me personally, but that's where the functionality of the shoulder joint is. 2 things we have under In the Image Clothing Company we call prerequisites. Conditional, there's not always ropes in our shoes or tags in our clothing, but there's only one way to weave a rope across the top of the human foot and call it a shoelace and not alter the feet. That's In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique, found wherever you can find us, 5 words as a whole, In the Image Clothing Company. With that, we have to tie our shoes evenly over toward the center line of the human being on both feet because there is one. Secondly, we remove all tags because anywhere a tag's placed within clothing, it's either causing a physical gap, changing the body's skeletal system's only working position, and or not allowing musculature to activate. And then the body's trying to compensate, but it can't. It all has to work together because it's all together all the time. So the right crest of the pelvis. Our pelvis is this whole functionality of bone here. It's a big structure in the center of our body that allows for hinging, it allows for rotations, and it allows for the spine to come down in and connect. And there's a lot happening in the pelvis. What happens on the crest of the pelvis, meaning on top of the pelvis, it comes like this. The bones, it's a big bone that has arcs on top, on both sides right here. And that's right where our pants sit above. And what happens is, if people are tying drawstrings around their waist and twisting their entire pelvis, then, which actually goes this way. If you tie the left side over the right, it's going to twist you this way with the pelvis. If you tie the right side over the left, it's going to actually twist you this way with the pelvis. But since most people on the earth are right-handed, and since clothing patterns themselves are, there's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here titled The Right-Handed World. And it is. And because of that, the right side of the pelvis here, right on the edge of that upper bone, meaning just the whole bone itself, but the very top part of it on the crest, there's a lot of scar tissue that gets built up. We talk about scar tissue because we talk about the skeletal system. The focus really is, what I'm saying, on the bones themselves, on the exterior of bones, and that's where the scar tissue actually gets built up, where muscles can't quite work in their only inline contraction if the body is altered at all structurally at its skeletal system. Then scar tissue builds up along bones to try to like hold on when the muscles are not being allowed to work proper. And it happens throughout the body in so many areas. We talk about it in so many areas where this stuff happens. And yeah, and what does happen is we need to break up that scar tissue that's right on that crest of the pelvis here, because when there's scar tissue there on the bone, your pants aren't actually sitting on those bones evenly. The left side, if there's less scar tissue, the pant waistline or the drawstring within the pants waistband, it can sit against that bone without being uncomfortable. But then on the right side, since there's scar tissue that gets so built up there, and it can be on the left as well, but it's almost always the right side of the human body that we need to address because of what I was saying. Clothing patterns themselves are right-handed. Human beings are vast majority right-handed. The world is structured toward right-handedness. And just the position that you can see that I'm doing here, that it puts the right side of your body into away from your center line into external rotation, right at the foot, all the way up to the hip, all the way up to the shoulder, all the way out to the hand, rather than evenly internal to the center line of the human being. We kind of look like this often. The right side is just dropped outward, and it's a rotation is really what's happening. So yeah, this pelvis crest needs to be able to have the pants sit against the bone. Regardless of the amount of fat content you have on any part of your body, it's not about that. It's about allowing the bones to be like clean, if you will, because that's what arthritis, quote unquote, really is just joints not being able to work freely, and so they will stiffen up to try to, as I'm saying with the pelvis crest here, stabilize and support in an unnatural way when they're not being allowed to naturally work. The goal is natural under In The Image Clothing Company. We'll never train the human being just a mechanical machine to do anything that it won't do. And it only just does what it will do at its neutrals. And so, yeah, the pelvis crest here, if there's scar tissue, then the pants won't sit against that bone because it's uncomfortable. And what'll happen then is your pants will just ride up above that pelvis crest there and just change. You can see what's happening to my foot. It's actually taking my whole right leg external. And that just happens, yeah, often. But like I was saying, if you're right-handed and you're tying drawstrings unevenly, that's just the position that knot's going to place your hips into and your whole body, right? As we're discussing. So, yeah, what we need to be able to do is keep drawstrings even. And there's videos we have talking about drawstrings under In The Image Clothing Company, but it's just a rope. And the slipped lap knot, LAPP, is what I show as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong, to do. That's what I have here, because what it does is allow your drawstring to sit entirely horizontal, and that's just how the hips would work unless otherwise altered. So yeah, drawstrings are really, really, really damaging if they're not even, and they're just about never even. So it's the right side of the pelvis here that's taking the beating. But you've also got coin pockets right there. You've also got anything you place into your right pocket. Being right-handed, that's probably where it's going to go. Things should never be in pockets. And then that right hip gets really inhibited and holds on for dear life, if you will, with scar tissue. So what I've personally done is just taken my own fingers. Anything that I've done as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company to get my body to where it is currently as of today's date, release-wise or massage-wise or anything to address the scar tissue of the human body, it's been my own hands. And so I've taken just my own fingers and gone along that pelvis crest right on the actual peak of that pelvis bone right there, and just worked out that scar tissue as we do on other parts of the body, because that's all you need is your own body. It just needs to be loosened up, and then it will just stay loose as long as we continue to be intentional about not altering our bodies by the clothing we place onto them. So that right side of the pelvis, it comes down in the back of our bodies where our spine comes down. The pelvis goes like this. At the very base of our spine in the center, the pelvis crests start there and they come up and around the sides of the hips and down the front. So I'll do it with my hands like this. From the very base of the spine here, they come up and then around and down, these crests of the pelvis bone. And so if you could just work all along that crest of the pelvis, then there you go. We need this right side of the body to be able to get sucked back from its pushed forward, which is external, position. And we talk about how a lot of pants are double stitched in the rear, and that's like this, where the right side's in front, and it just pushes that right side forward, and that whole pelvis crest is out of its only working position, and so then the scar tissue is trying to hold on. And so that's just happening. There's a lot of other things within clothing doing a similar thing, and we talk about them where we do under In The Image Clothing Company. So the big thing is you'll never get your shoulder on the right side to be even height, which is internal because of what muscles are working to raise the shoulder, if your pelvis crest has a lot of scar tissue on it. And the dreaded collar seam under In The Image Clothing Company, it's, yeah, when placed on the left side, if there's a seam within a collar of a shirt, it's going to drop the right side lower. Now you've taken the whole right side external as well. I just discussed how that works. And so what happens is the pelvis crest gets really bound up with scar tissue because the muscles up here can't do their job, and so the pelvis will be, as I'm saying, just trying all that it can to just hang on. Because as we walk, our legs have to be supported. As we do anything, our arms have to be supported. And then we've still got the center line always that just has to be there, otherwise damage to the body. So there you go. That's the pelvis crest on the right side and the importance of it. So it's huge, man. Absolutely huge. Yeah. Where clothing sits and the prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company are really what we're about, as I say, and that's our intros. We talk about a lot of little things, slight modifications, and things to change a little bit, things to remove from clothing that's just imbalancing it, that's unnecessary. But it really is about those foundational prerequisites, and that's why they're in the intros. So the human body only ever works how it does, and there you go. That pelvis crest is the center of the body, top to bottom. It determines rotations all the way to the tip of the toe, the tip of the fingers, and the top of the head. It really affects every part of the body. So when you do tie a slipped lap knot, make sure the side that has the single loop comes toward the center line of you. Everything always goes to the center of the body. Always. Everything that we do ever, because that's where the body's the strongest. Any farther out and things just are harder to do. So there you go. That pelvis crest. You will have shoulder damage coming from your pelvis if there's scar tissue built up like that. You will have feet damage, which if you've never worn shoes and your feet are just unrestricted, let's say, which isn't very common by any means, if it even happens, and it might happen, but you're still going to have a damaged right foot if you're tying a drawstring in a way that's causing your right hip to build up scar tissue. So yeah, the body only works as a whole. We show everything you need to know to just allow, which is the only thing we ever can do, your own body to work. Under In The Image Clothing Company, we actually have the fixes, the truth, the cause. It applies to every human to ever live. The information we give here will never change or be invalid. It's just a mechanical machine. It's as obvious as it is once you see it, is a phrase I say often. And I didn't see it either till I was 24, so. All right. Drawstrings. No give. No stretch. Muscles go the opposite direction of stretching. They contract and get shorter. That's the only way they ever work. And often we have drawstrings that are made out of stretchy materials. We talk about also having nothing on the rear of the spine. No belt loops, no stitched in drawstrings of any kind right in the center of the rear, because that just pulls the pelvis with it, and that just will damage the entire body and build up scar tissue on the pelvis crests. So the thing with those crests of the pelvis is you have glute muscles that come and connect right to that pelvis, and that's why a lot of internal rotation is lacking so much, because the muscles here, like the glute medius, that contract to allow internal rotation down at the foot, they're being just sliced into and cut off by a drawstring if the pants aren't above the hips, and just the rotation that's happening because of the things we've discussed also just don't allow these muscles to get shorter. So they're excessively elongated back here, and that's why you have external rotation down at your feet from these reasons. The body only works as a whole, so there's many reasons, and that's why we have to be as intentional as we are, as those of us who know what we do here under In The Image Clothing Company. So it's huge. It applies to every human to ever live. Always will. Forever. Well, there's a video under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here titled In The Image Clothing Company's zipper modification, or something. It might be titled How Zippers Affect Body Mechanics. Either way, find us talking about zippers because zippers interlock one side over the other, as drawstring knots, traditionally done like this, are one side over the other. So we show to cut zippers, whatever side of the zipper is higher, if you can cut out at that very top part right above that top little interlock, then it'll allow that to drop down even. And then you've got buttons that are potentially changing the pelvis. So just being very intentional to keep waistbands even, and those are the ways that you do that. Drawstrings and zippers, nothing in pockets. Coin pockets shouldn't be there either, just because there's a different amount of material on only one side, and so the hips elongation at the hip flexors, meaning extension here, will just be changed because there's something in the way. Then we also talk about what I was going to say is just, being intentional about that double stitch on the rear of pants. If we can have single stitched clothing, then it's not going to damage our bodies the way that double stitches do. There's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here titled "Double Stitches Are Grippy and Stiff." They are. So restriction to the body comes from that. So what happens actually really often is people will try to address their latissimus dorsi, however you pronounce it personally. It connects from the rear of the arm all the way down the back is where it goes, and then it connects to the lumbar spine from somewhere around the top of the lumbar spine down to the very base, and then along part of the crest of the pelvis in here until you get to right about out here. Then you've got the rest of the crest of the pelvis coming around. So this muscle starts down here, connects along the crest of the pelvis, along the spine, and it comes up, spans the back, and connects to the arm. It's what allows you to pull like this, because as you can see, that's just taking this point and getting it closer to that point, meaning the two insertions, the ends of the muscle. That gets addressed so often by people. They'll try to stretch their lats, for short, latissimus dorsi, and you're not going to stretch muscles to help them. We talk about how stretching isn't something that can benefit you. Muscles only shorten to work, and they have to always stay activated as an entirety. But it's just imbalances that make you feel like stretching could help. There's no opinion. But the things that I'm talking about here with the scar tissue on that right crest of the pelvis are just going to change the way that that lat insertion, because that's really what's happening. Because of rotations in the body and things changing the way the body works, there's scar tissue that builds up along that crest back there, and really what that is where that latissimus dorsi inserts. We talk about insertions of muscles. That's what the skeletal system focus is, because that's the only way that the muscles can move the skeletal system is if they insert to it. And so that's really what that is, actually, as far as the rear part of it. But we need to address the whole crest because it's all being affected because of the things I've discussed within this video. But you won't help yourself by stretching your lats. There's actually a video under the Truth Behind series on the main site here of In The Image Clothing Company titled The Truth Behind the Lats. And it's not the muscle at all. It's the bones and the scar tissue that's built up. So it's as real as it gets. We talk about things as they are. We're sharing truth with the world, with the whole earth. So, yeah. Because as we talk about the jaw stabilizing the entire body, if this pelvis is so tight and bound up, it's going to take your jaw right. And then you've got a jaw which has to stay in the center, to stabilize the entire body, now out of its only center and stabilizing out of an imbalance. And so it's deepening the chronic patterning. Now, the jaw is, and it's not its fault, but it came from the scar tissue on the right crest of the pelvis. So, yeah, it's that real. It's pretty nuts, man. It's so simple, the human body, really, because it'll just work unless there's a reason it isn't allowed to. But when we live in a world nowadays where we've got, I mean, currently I'm wearing, I'll count them, but I'll be saying them: shoes, socks, pants, undergarments, a t-shirt, and a button-up shirt. I've got 6 different items of clothing on, and then if you count each shoe and each sock, you go to 8. When we have each of those things and they can all have imbalances of their own, and then we place them onto the body through the entirety of our day, that's what's happening. It's not the human body's fault at all. It's just designed to work, and it just would. But there's a lot that is having to work around sometimes. So minimize, simplify, allow, right? In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah. So there you go, man. Tags and shoes, as well as tags anywhere else, they have to be addressed, meaning at least grip given to them. Put slits into them with something sharp, or entirely remove them is the most ideal. So there you go. Thank you. Like I said, today's actually Easter. It's the 20th of April, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of all 4 sides of the Image Clothing Company as a whole. Check us out. What we talk about applies to you, no matter who you are or where you're from. You're a human being. Yep. Yes. Keeping shirt cuffs off the wrists, well, off the hands. Keeping pant cuffs off the feet, so there's motion that can be had, because that will go to the pelvis as well, okay? And then you've got scar tissue along that crest. So, yeah, it's as real as it gets. Yeah. Seams and clothing on the sides need to be just evenly at the sides. Otherwise, same thing. You've just altered the position of the only neutral the pelvis has, and scar tissue, okay? So, yeah. A lot of times, I say we shouldn't have side seams within the shirts that are actually against our bodies, but any side seams in clothing at all, these ones are nice and flat, but I've talked about how they'll come down and they'll pin them flat, and so they rotate, and sometimes they do it uneven, and that's in the armpit sleeves as well, meaning just the arm sleeves, right? And then you're just rotating your body, and your pelvis is going to build up scar tissue to try to stabilize from its center. So, okay, as real as it gets. And I'm just so grateful to know all this. I'm grateful for the gift of video, because I can just sit here, and it's just so nice to sit here regardless, and then I can teach people how their bodies work. And I'm really excited for dogs. I will be breeding standard poodles. I love them. So hang out, man. Hang out. Hang out in the Image Clothing Company as a whole. There's a lot here, and everybody gets stuff from it, no matter who you are. So thank you.